Yo, young people of America, it is time to stop outsourcing your credibility to colleges and universities and the education system. And what the hell do I mean by that, outsourcing your credibility? What I mean by that is, if you ask most young people who are in college, why are you in college? Yes, they might talk about learning, they might talk about having fun, but particularly if they're taking a lot of debt to be there, ultimately the answer is they want to have a credential to get a job later on, right? So really what college is doing is it's serving as a credibility stamp. It basically says, I have credibility because I did all this work and I jumped through all these hoops, and now I have credibility and you should hire me, and this is the school I went to. Obviously, the more prestigious the school, the more credibility. That's the system we've had for the last 100 years or so, roughly. Well, listen, it's time to stop giving up your power to that system, because ultimately the credibility that you're buying through that system, the value of that is diminishing, and the cost of that credibility is going up. So what do I mean by this? The value of the credibility diminishing and the cost going up. Well, let's look at the value side first. You know, it used to mean something in the 1950s if you had a BA degree. Not that many people had them relative to the population. So if you had one, it really set you apart and it marked you instantly as credible. Well, obviously, things have changed now. Now everyone has a BA degree. It puts you in the middle of a resume stack with 100 or 200 people who have the exact same degree. So the value of the credibility that simply saying you've gone to college gives you has gone down enormously over time because it's become so diffuse. And now with all kinds of very questionable online bachelor's programs, pretty much everyone can get a bachelor's if they want one. It really doesn't mean that much to say you have a bachelor's. So the value is going down, but the cost of that credibility is going way up. There's many, many costs. Obviously, the cost of the tuition. Some schools now are charging $40,000, $50,000 a year. There's even some, Sarah Lawrence, for example, that are close to $60,000 a year. Now, not everyone pays that price. There's student aid. But the average price of private education now is $12,000 per year, so $48,000 for a private education. Public is starting to gain real fast. I grew up in Berkeley, California, and the tuition for in-state people is $12,000 a year. It's shooting up like a rocket. So there's a financial cost. Obviously, there's debt costs associated with that, interest payments. You might be paying interest and debt payments until your 40s to get that diminishing piece of credibility. But then, of course, there's opportunity costs. There's a time it takes to jump through all these hoops and write all those lame papers that are going to be graded by underpaid graduate students and part-time faculty. And there's all this enormous amount of time that goes on to get this credibility. And then if you look at it from an even broader context, think of what happens before college. An enormous amount of your childhood is spent getting in through this credibility marker. So you are being asked to bear down and study hard on your SATs and do all the resume and application worthy extracurriculars that you might not want to be doing otherwise just because they look good, and study for your APs and all these things you're asked to do to get through the hoops of college, and it's getting more and more and more competitive to get into any kind of college that has a name brand. You know, I went to Brown, class of 99. I'm not sure I would get in. I think I got like a 1350 or something on my SAT. I doubt I would get in with that SAT now in 2012. I was applying around 1995. So the costs are going up and the value of the credibility is going down. So what is the alternative? My friends, the alternative is to bootstrap your credibility. I'll give you an example. I have a young apprentice who's 23 that I'm helping out right now, a guy called Joe Antonucci. And he found me online. He wanted to do some help for me online. And he's been doing some great research for me. He's been doing some great writing, some online media management, all these different tasks that are very helpful to me. And now he's going out to apply for jobs, and he's using my name as a reference. He says, hey, I work for Michael Ellsberg. I have a certain amount of clout online. I have a certain name, I've been a published author, all these things, blah, blah, blah. So instead of saying, hey, I went to such and such college, which distinguishes him from no one, he's able to say, hey, I work for this well-known author. And now, obviously, not everyone's going to come work for me, but the point is you can go out and get credibility just like Joe did in all kinds of ways. You know, you can go out and find these people online where you can volunteer for them, you can apprentice, you can help them out, you can get some experience under your belt, some different people you've worked for on your resume. And when you go and do that, it's either free or you're getting paid for it, and it's fast. You don't necessarily have to go to some college town to do it. You can do it even while you're living at home with your parents and enjoying free or subsidized rent when you're younger. And there's all these ways. Think about all the different ways you can create credibility now. You can start a blog. You can have a great online following, Twitter, Facebook, social media, LinkedIn. You can create a YouTube channel. This is what I'm doing now. This is actually my first YouTube video I've ever posted, so I'm kind of green to this style of getting my word out. But there's just so many ways out there now that you can create credibility on the fly, inexpensively. You don't have to go into debt to get it. You get real world job experience. You build your network now. I've written a lot about this. Check out my article on Forbes. It's called the Teal Fellowship Lecture. If you Google my name, Michael Ellsberg, and the Teal Fellowship Lecture on Forbes, you'll find a great video where I explain how to go out and find these mentors and find these people you can work for and bootstrap your credibility. So that's what we're really talking about here, is bootstrapping credibility. You're familiar with the concept of bootstrapping. It basically means keeping your costs low, not going into a bunch of debt and taking on a bunch of expenses, but keeping things low and lean and inexpensive and on the fly. And that's what so many young people are doing today. And that's why I see the things that young people like Joe are doing, and it blows my mind. I think the entire educational system is going to crumble because more and more young people are going to see that they have alternatives and that they don't need to become indentured students to this crazy, insane student debt system we have, all to get a credential that is diminishing in the amount that it sets you apart. Look for ways to set yourself apart that don't cost so much money and that you can start doing now, whether you've gone to college or not.